Hello and welcome to Tools to Create a Better Life with myself, Glenyce Hughes. Thank you so much for watching or listening in, however it is that you're receiving this. I am so incredibly grateful for each and every one of you. Oh my goodness. So I'm actually sitting on the edge of our driveway. We have this most magical, long, a little bit windy driveway that is just so gorgeous. I love, love, love it. And this time of year, it is even more magical with all of these brilliant colors. And yes, you all know, I love my swimming pool. I love my summer weather. And I love the colors of fall. It's so amazing. And often we're not here to really enjoy them. We're often off in some other country and I'm facilitating some sort of awesomeness somewhere. And this year being, at 2020, COVID has made some changes for us. And so I've just been watching for weeks as these leaves change color. And a little bit of sad news, the pool was closed down officially this morning. The pool guy came out, hubby drained it yesterday. They don't drain it all the way, but we do have to drain it down below the pipes that go in the ground. For anybody who doesn't know, a lot of people say, just get a cover and use it in the winter. I don't think you've been to Canada, my sweet friends, because let me tell you what happens in Canada. The ground freezes. So we can't actually just put a cover over it because all of the pipes, the water that is in the pipes underground would actually freeze and break and I wouldn't have a pool anymore. So we have to drain it down below those pipes. So all the water is out, and then when it freezes this winter, as it will, for months on end, yes, I question my sanity about living in Canada, then it doesn't break. And then in the spring, we can open it back up. So I get a lot of questions about that. It's just a little FYI. Yeah, this is just the way we do it. So here we are. It is actually day 4 of the Certified Facilitator training with Access Consciousness. In August of 2020, just started my 9th year as a certified facilitator. Oh my gosh. Like 9 years I have been lucky enough to facilitate these amazing tools around the world, and this past year a whole lot online. How did I get so lucky? So I wanted to share something from the class, and this is something that I would say I'm just starting to really become aware of, and I have a lot more of playing with it, but it was so up in my world. We were talking about it this morning, and I just wanted to share it. And it's about the generosity of spirit. And it's something that we talk about in Foundation. So hashtag get your butt to Foundation, and there will be a link somewhere, depending on how you're listening or watching this, to see when my upcoming classes are. And Access has a ton of facilitators, almost I think 800 of us that you could choose from. So find someone and hashtag get your butt to Foundation. So generosity of spirit is when you actually are happy for people when they succeed. Yeah. And I'm going to be honest, that is not something that I have chose a lot of in my life. You might have heard me talk before. Jealousy was a really big energy in my world growing up. I had 2 older sisters. It seemed like they could do everything and I could do nothing. So I started kind of with that energy years and years ago, and then as I had friends as a teenager and even before that, they would get something and I would get so jealous. And I remember one friend, they always traveled to places in the United States, and I always wanted to do that, and I just thought they were so lucky, and why did she get it and I didn't, and like wah. I'm not kidding you. I mean, it might sound funny now, but honestly, ridiculous. Especially since what was actually going on is her mom was very sick, and they were actually going to different doctors in different places to assist. Anyway, regardless. So I have often chose the jealousy or the why not me, or the kind of unkindness of, well, they only got that because, Yeah, so there's my confession for the day. If you haven't heard me confess it before, it is an energy that I chose a lot, and I'm not proud of it. And so when we would talk about generosity and spirit, generosity of spirit, the person that I saw display that more than anybody I had ever experienced in my life was Dane here. And so I often forget to say this, but I'm referring to, when I talk about foundation classes, it's Access Consciousness. Dane here is the co-founder of Access Consciousness, and all the tools that I share are from Access Consciousness, and you can go to accessconsciousness.com for more information. But basically, he bees generosity of spirit in just a way that I just never ever experienced it before, and it's not kind of as basic, I'm going to say, as being happy for somebody when they succeed. Like, how can I even put into words if you haven't experienced Dane? To me, Dane would love everybody on the planet to be who they be, and he will contribute whatever the person is willing to receive for them to choose that. So some people aren't willing to receive any of it, so he doesn't push where it's not received. But for people that are willing, he would do anything that they would receive to contribute to them having and being all of them. And even that probably is a limitation in what he is with the generosity of spirit that he bees, because putting that into words is really difficult. But I just wanted to give you an energy in case it's something you're not familiar with, which, like I said, for me, it just wasn't something. I only really knew how to be jealous. I'm sure I knew generosity of spirit on some level, but I wasn't willing to choose it. And so when we talked about it in class today, it was really amazing because I'm so inspired by people who are willing to ask questions around what we might try to hide. And so this guy was on the class, and he was saying, I don't feel like I'm generosity of spirit with people. He said some people, yes. He said that's really ease, but a lot of people, he says, no. And basically he was kind of like, how can I change this? And he was so willing to be vulnerable. He was so willing to have no barriers up and just kind of put his shit out there, we might call it, and just say, hey, how can I change this? And I was so grateful, because that wouldn't be a question I would be willing to ask yet. What else is possible? But even to acknowledge to myself a few years ago was huge. Actually, more than a few years ago. Probably 7 or 8 years ago when I finally started looking at this for myself. And so, and so Gary and Dane were, and Simone and Brendan. So now there's 4. It used to just be Gary and Dane. And so often I will just still utilize just their 2 names, but there's actually 4 people facilitating the class. And so they were all sharing kind of what generosity of spirit is. And one of the things that Gary said to this gentleman, he said, like, because the guy was saying, like, how come I can be it with some people and not with other people? And Gary was like, are you aware of what the people that you can't be it with, are you aware of what they can receive? And it was like, wow, isn't that cool? Now that doesn't mean that he should just be unconscious or, sorry, there's little mosquitoes in here. And look, there's leaves falling. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so if you're not watching the video, I apologize now, guys. And so it's like looking at that, but not from the place of, well, they're not going to receive it, so I don't have to be it, and I can be jealous or I can be unkind. That's not the energy of it either. Because I was looking at that actually just yesterday, of kind of some people where I'm willing to be so much more, and some people I'm not. And I had the awareness that maybe it was, at some points what the other person wasn't willing to receive. But I also don't want to use that as an excuse or a justification. I can be aware of it, but then I can still be what works for me. So I don't have to operate off of, well, they can't receive it, so I do nothing. It's like, what else is possible and what actually works for me? with that, and it kind of ties into last week's show. I did a show about, are you letting people show you who they are? So if you're aware of somebody's potential, are you kind of living in that space, or are you willing to be aware of what works for you and all the pieces? So we'll have a link somewhere too with that show on the YouTube anyway of this, if you want to check that out if you haven't already. So with the generosity of spirit and other people maybe not being able to receive it, that's really what I was looking at, and kind of like, that doesn't mean we still don't be it. And a big piece of that, at least for myself, is to not judge when I'm not being it. Like, recognize that it's time to ask a question. So let's say there was somebody that I was gifting something to, and they received it with ease, and I could just perceive the gifting and the receiving and the kindness and the expansion and all of that yumminess. And then I went to somebody else to gift them something, and that wasn't there. Then I can be in question and have an awareness in that moment, and I could check in, so truth, are they willing to receive this? But that doesn't mean then if it's a no, that I have to just stop. I could, mosquitoes, I could, or there's a billion other choices. But the minute that we go into, oh, now I'm not being generosity of spirit, or I'm wrong, or I'm horrible, or I'm mean, or I'm selfish, or like all the things, that's what we want to avoid. We just want to get into the habit of a question, because most of the stuff that people are asking about, interestingly enough, as always seems to occur, is really never ours. We become aware of things, we become aware of people, we become aware of, stuff, but we don't acknowledge we're aware of it, so then we basically utilize it against us. So that's what this guy was doing, was like every time he wasn't being what he decided generosity of spirit was, then he was wrong. And it's kind of like, that's the piece. And it often comes up when I'm in a class and I ask people what they would like from the class, or I do a one-on-one session and I say to the person, if you could have anything out of this, what would it be? Often what the person will say to me is to stop judging. And I'm sorry, my sweet friends, I cannot do that. There's nothing that I can do for that, because it's not your judgment. You are aware of judgment on the planet. What happens though is you pretend you're not, so then you make it about you. You think when you get up and you look in the mirror and you think you're ugly, or you're fat, or you're too skinny, or whatever it might be, you then play with that as though it's yours. It's not. So I cannot contribute to you stopping judgment. What I can contribute is you not taking on that judgment as though it's yours, as to stop playing with it. There's a ton of tools for that. And that's ultimately what we're looking at with even the generosity of spirit. When we go into, I'm not happy that that person succeeded. Is that actually yours? No, it might be. So we might have some other stuff to clear around that. That's okay. But you want that to be your first question, because if it's not yours, you can't ever fix a lie. You can't ever change a lie. So if it's not yours, acknowledge it. Now, I've also had people say to me, sometimes when I scroll on social media, I get really jealous or really upset that somebody got, say, a new car. And then they say, but it doesn't make sense to me because I don't even want that sort of car. And here I am, being all, grumpy about it. And so what I encourage them to do, same idea, ask a question. Again, is this mine? Because sometimes people post things on social media and they're looking for that energy. So they're posting it with the energy that people are going to be upset, or they're going to be jealous, or they're going to be mad at them, and so when it's posted with that energy, again, we're infinitely aware, so we're going to pick it up and possibly act it out. So we just want to, again, go to question. Truth, is this mine? Okay, so you get a no. Okay, so then that might be enough. Return to sender with consciousness, and away you go about your day. But if you keep thinking about it or keep kind of obsessing about it, then you might want to ask, hey, is this person projecting that I'll be like this, or that I'll be upset, or I'll be mad, or whatever it is. Now, it's not so then you phone that person up and you say, hey, don't project on me. It's never that. It could be that you just go, oh, okay, cool. That's what it is. I'm just aware of what they were asking for. Okay, cool. Again, you still don't have to act it out. I know, right? That's the thing with awareness. You don't ever have to do anything with that awareness, but that awareness will gift you so much freedom. When you're willing to be aware, it changes everything because you don't play with the crazy anymore. Well, maybe you do, but for me, as soon as I acknowledge the awareness, as soon as I become aware of whatever it is that's kind of making me be crazy, it's done. It's over. I don't have to do anything else with it. Yeah. So, I mean, truly, how does it get any better than that? When we're willing to ask a question, as something as simple as, is this mine? Truth, does this belong to me? Truth, who does this belong to? So like however you want to word the question, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But just start asking the question, because something that Gary said this morning during class was that we be generosity of spirit. Like we be it. This is a natural state for us. So some of us will choose it continuously. Some of us will never choose it. Some of us will get over some sort of crazy point of view and then choose it. That's the category that I've fallen into, is that once I got over that point of view, and I'll tell you what it took for me to get over that point of view, that, the jealousy. Well, probably two pieces, I would say. The first piece was that I had to, there was a woman who posted on social media, and she said, jealousy is a call to action. And when that occurred, when I read that, it was like this light within me just started to like light up. I was like, jealousy is a call to action. And it took me a little while to kind of figure that out. And that was probably, I would guess, around 2011, 2012-ish, probably 2011. So I kind of was already, in a sense, processing it, like kind of like, okay, so all that jealousy that I've chosen, a call to action, Then I was introduced to the tools from Access Consciousness, started using them, and it was 2012, early in 2012, let's say March. And there was a woman who did very similar work as I was doing at the time. And she got interviewed on the news, the local news, which for her was the Calgary CTV news, about a thing that she was doing. And it was posted, she had posted it all over Facebook and social media and stuff. So the first time I saw it, the first time it came up, when I saw it, I went straight to that usual energy of jealousy, of like, oh, what is she getting? The thing. I don't need to go through it. You guys know what I'm talking about. I went through that. And then I stopped. And I remembered that the post, jealousy is a call to action. Then I went to tools. And I started asking, what would it take for me to get interviewed on my local news station? That's all I did. I went to the question. What would it take? What would it take? Now, the first few times I asked that, I'll be honest, it was more, I was just giving it lip service. Like, I wasn't serious. I was just still pissed that she had got this thing. I laugh because it's funny. So I did the right thing, but I wasn't actually being the question. But then what occurred was, after a few times of that happening and me asking the right questions, saying the right thing, it actually started to dissipate the energy of it, of the like, how dare she, into more of a creation energy of like, what would that be like for me to get interviewed on my local news, which for me was Edmonton local news, the Edmonton CTV news. So I probably did that, I don't know, let's say it came up 30 times over a couple of days. And so I did that. I asked, what would it take for me to get interviewed on my local news about, I don't even think I said about anything, probably about my work is probably what I said. And then I also then, when I would kind of beyond that question, I would go to what else is possible with this I've never even considered. What magic could I be here? Like just a couple of those questions just to kind of exponentialize the space of the creation of it. Like just, okay, so yeah, what is possible with this? And really got into that, so that what started occurring is that when I would see what she had created, it then became the inspiration for me. And that was such, honestly, guys, such a key moment for me when that kind of that energy shifted, where instead of resisting receiving what she created, I actually allowed myself to be inspired by it. So within, do I even remember now? I'm going to say within a week, maybe 2 weeks, probably just a week. It was so quick. At the time, I was part of a book group. So there was a group of 30 of us that had written a book. We each had a chapter. And there was one of the people who wrote a chapter was also a PR person. So she wrote press releases. So she wrote a press release for all of us to utilize and just fill in the blanks with our information. So I took that press release, not remembering, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I've been asking for this. It wasn't even from that energy. It just kind of like, oh, she sent it out. I filled in my stuff and I started sending it all out to, I had much more local newspapers and stuff where we were living. And then the Edmonton news station was a few hours away, but I kind of like, okay, well, I've been asking for this. So I wonder how I get on there now that I have a press release. And I went onto their webpage, and sure enough, there was basically you filled in a form. I filled in the form, I sent in the press release. 3 days later, I got an email or a call, I don't remember, from the person that said, hey, we'd love to have you on the news. Come on up, here's the date, will this work? I mean, it changed everything for me because I realized that jealousy is truly a call to action. Jealousy is a call to action. So when you see something that you might have normally went to jealousy energy on, what you want to start asking is, and this is what I ask now, no matter what it is, if I get that like yummy energy, which is more often now than jealousy, but whether it's the yummy energy or jealousy, doesn't matter. What would it take for me to create something like that, or even greater for me? What would it take for me to create something like that, or even greater for me? So what that means is not like to outdo the person so you can phone them up and say, hey, I did better than you. That's not the question. Greater for you means that thing might not have be the thing for you. So for you, let's say you saw somebody buy a tiny little sports car and it just lit your whole body up. And then you go into, okay, so what would it take for me to create something like that, or even greater for me? Yours might be a van. Yours might be a trip to Hawaii. Yours, like, who knows what yours might be? But if we start asking that, then we're actually going to be allowing us to create what is even yummier for us. So we start actually receiving from people who are creating what I call awesomeness and allowing it to get even yummier and even yummier and even yummier. Yeah, right? Right, guys? So it's like, this is how so much of what I have created since then has occurred, because I've allowed myself to be inspired by people. When I see somebody creating awesomeness, now it doesn't matter if that jealousy energy comes up first or the excitement energy comes up for them. It doesn't matter what it is. I no longer judge myself for the most part. But I do go into, okay, what would it take for me to create something like that, or even yummier for me? And it doesn't even have to be something we might call like a big creation, guys. I can see somebody who they've taken a picture that they went for a walk in nature. And if it lights me up, I'll ask that, because what might that be for me? That might be sitting out here with you guys watching leaves fall. And there's a little chickadee up there on a branch, but the branch is not stable. He's moved on. But anyway, so I get to watch the leaves fall, or who knows? I mean, there's so many things if we don't judge it, but if we're aware of that energy, if we're aware of what does light us up, or go to jealousy. Either way, I promise you guys, if jealousy has been kind of the thing for you, if you utilize these tools, it'll change. You'll shift it. It's really, who does it belong to? I mean, jealousy is such a big energy in this reality. It's given way more energy than any other energy, like creation energy or jealousy energy. What do you see more of on the planet, right? Yeah. So what if we actually be the ones that choose to change that jealousy into the inspiration, into the creativity, into creating the magic we truly desire? Something that we talk about in CF, we haven't in this class yet, I'm sure it's coming, but something we talk about in CF class is leapfrogging. So where if I see something, let's say my sweet friend Crystal Crawford creates a class on money and she has 6 components to it, and I look and I think 2 of them like just light me up, then I will utilize those 2 components and I will add 4 more, and then I'll create something over here. And it's about leapfrogging. It's not about copying or mimicking or, duplicating from that limited space. It's really about the leapfrog, the allowing ourselves to be inspired and to choose greater based on that previous choice. Which, how does it get any better than that? Now, I bring up my sweet friend Crystal because, depending on when you're listening to this, her and I are co-facilitating some awesomeness in October. I believe it's the 21st and 22nd. We'll have a link somewhere, or you can always message me for details. We're going to facilitate a class on money and a class on business. How does it get any better than that? If you are in Ontario, anywhere near Grand Bend, Ontario, we chose that because it's a beautiful Airbnb for no other reason except this beautiful Airbnb. We're going to have a couple of spots where you can be with us in person. There's very, very limited space, but if you're in the area, we would love to have you come play in person. Otherwise, you can join us online, and this is, you can choose one, just money or just business, or you can choose both. We also are opening up one day with Crystal and I, so it must be the 20th and the 21st. So the 22nd is where you could come and spend the day with us, either online or in person, with her and I. Just you, her, and me. Does it get any better? We are having that as an interview process. So again, when you go to the link, you can see all that information or PM me for details. So got a little off track. I mentioned Crystal and I got all excited because I'm so excited for these classes and these possibilities. Now, back to generosity of spirit. So what you want to look for in your life is either that jealousy energy or when you're getting excited about things for people, and really acknowledge the generosity of spirit that you truly be. Now, the question that Gary gave this gentleman, I hesitate because it might have been somebody different, but I think it was him. It doesn't matter. That I wrote down feverishly as he said it because it was so brilliant. And he said, this guy was like, how do I do this? And what about this and this person and that person? And Gary said, what if you ask, if I was truly being the generosity of spirit here, what would create more? If I was truly being the generosity of spirit here, what would create more? And I just love that, because I thought, what magic could we create if we all operated from that? Yeah. Like if you were being the generosity of spirit that you truly be, what would create more? There's just something in that for me, guys, that I just had to come out here and share that and be out in this beautiful, beautiful fall weather that we're having. Oh my gosh. So thank you so much for listening in or watching, however you connected with me. I am so grateful, and I am so grateful to have this in all the formats now. And a big shout out to my sweet VA. Her name is Erica, and she does all of the work. I do this little snippet, and then she does all the work to get it in all the places. And I am just so incredibly grateful for you, Erica. And I'm so grateful for the magic that we co-create together, and for all of you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so, so grateful. Have an awesome rest of your day, and I look forward to chatting again next week.